To practice the presence of God is to awaken within us the Christ consciousness, the resurrection of the death of the belief that we are separated from God. Ernest Holmes said this very clearly. It applies to all of us. This is a beautiful Easter morning. It's a wonderful Easter experience for us all to rise up in the awareness that this divine presence very clearly reminds us that it is each of us who has the opportunity to rise up on Easter wings every day, not only on this beautiful, sacred, special holiday. As we spoke about this at the Good Friday service, Jesus was appropriately placed between two thieves who were also being crucified. And it was because he was something of an outlaw himself, wasn't he? Radical forgiveness. He taught radical forgiveness. He taught radical inclusion. His message was one of love and oneness with the divine and with all beings, all sentient beings. He did judge criminals. He did not fear lepers. He walked with prostitutes. He saw each and every one as an expression of the living God, a child of the divine, and saw through. It's okay. If that's someone calling you, please give the phone to me. And we'll put it right up here and they can listen to the message. He didn't discriminate. Jesus did not refuse to be with anyone who was different. He saw all as magnificent sons and daughters of God. This is what we are taught to do. It's what we know innately is ours to do, to see through appearances, as the master teacher Jesus taught, see through appearances to the reality, but also to celebrate all of what we see as differences, realizing that they're simply beautiful expressions of the one life, like this beautiful bouquet here. Each one important to the entire expression of beauty. Each one of us is important. So Jesus actually formed a revolutionary group. Did you ever think of Jesus as an outlaw? I really like that because it reminds us that we don't need to stay with what we have always been taught we had to do and what we needed to, how we needed to act and be with others, that we can think of a whole new idea, infinite possibilities of ways to let the divine show up in our world. We are here to make a difference in our world. We are here to learn and to grow and to support each other on our spiritual paths. So this spirit, this revolutionary spirit, continues to inspire us to create a human community with divine unity. You know, it's very nice to say all are welcomed here, but I recently came across something, oh, that's the most beautiful sound I have ever heard. I'm just going to stand here and listen. Do you mind? All are welcomed here is nice, but you know what I like even better? It's about our vision of our spiritual community and how we wish to lift everyone who may come to us. And it, rather than all are welcomed here, which is true, I rather prefer saying, this was created with you in mind. Will you say that with me? This was created with you in mind. And that makes us realize we are allowing a container that we've been growing here in this beloved community to be a welcoming place, to be a place where we honor and celebrate each individual, whether it's 3 or 4 months old or 95 or everything in between. And no matter how we show up in the world, no matter what our differences are with our background religiously or with our ethnicities or gender or anything else that we find to be different in the garden of colors and shapes and lifestyles and ages and ethnicities and educational and religious backgrounds and gender identity and belief systems. We are all welcome here because this was created with each of us in mind. I love that. This beautiful, bountiful, inclusive, celebratory, spiritual container is for all of us. And it's for those who are seeking us right now as well. So, I mean, look what we created in the bountiful bouquet. We do this every Easter. We do it every Thanksgiving. And it's a beautiful visual, isn't it? For who we are and what we can bring together to make a difference in our community and in the world. See, there is a false belief that we're separate from our source. There is a false belief that God is so far away that we'll never be able to feel that connection, and it isn't true. All we need to do is to look in a rose or in the face of a brand baby. I know you can hardly wait, but there's a time and a place to gather. That child, that beautiful Henrik, he's a perfect expression of new life. And you will learn more as the weeks go by about the road that he and Papa Richard have been traveling. And it's a beautiful road. And you have all been a part of it. All a part of it. And how beautiful to welcome now this precious, precious beloved being. You and I are also the beloveds in whom God is well pleased. Just as you were welcomed here in this wonderful world the day you popped out, and everything since then has been guiding and supporting and loving you, this wonderful essence of the divine flows through us. The living waters of spirit that we seek are available to us right where we are. And the resurrected Christ is simply the remembrance and the reminder that the new life is always expressing itself. We know that Easter was a holiday that took place centuries before we even had Christianity. It was about the 2nd century, I believe, that ultimately the early Christians adopted that time because it was a perfect opportunity. Here is Jesus proclaiming eternal life, proving that we do not die, rolling away the stone of doubt. It was a heavy stone. He didn't do it. It was done for him. We sometimes think we have to try so hard to take care of all the problems and the troubles that we have in our lives. Those stones that seem so heavy, how will we ever roll them away? We let them be rolled away so that we may be lifted up in this new beautiful consciousness of love and possibility. So the false belief in separation from source dissolves in the light of truth and oneness. You know, it takes conscious, focused attention to see beyond appearances. We have appearances in our lives. We have difficulties. We have challenges. We sometimes have a dark night of the soul. When we do, I think the best thing that we can do is to surrender to something greater that can lift us. If I be lifted up. Lifted up. And we know that when we look at and gaze at our problems too long and we're looking at them down here and we're getting all involved in them and we forget that there is a power and a presence that is divine, that is right where we are, accessible to us all the time, that would be the time to lift our vision, to look up. And when we look up, look unto the hills from whence cometh my strength. Looking up to that divine presence, which is always loving and holding and nurturing and guiding and supporting us, then we surrender to that greatness and we don't try so hard to make all the difficult things go away. We work too hard trying to figure things out sometimes, don't you think? And all we need to do is say, thy will be done, thy will. And God's will is always for more life. God's will is always for that which is whole and complete and healthy and happy and beautiful. And that's what we are about. We can perceive the divinity within each person, no matter how that person may be behaving at the time. That's a big job. It isn't always easy, is it? Is it always easy if there's somebody who's misbehaving to look through and see the presence of the divine in them? Who is that easy for? Okay, so we keep working. We keep following the great example. We keep following that fabulous outlaw. We're transformed by the renewing of our minds. We elevate our consciousness. We see love beyond the hate. We behold the divinity within the human. There is not one person anywhere who was not created in the image and likeness of God. And that means that the love, the life, the light, the peace, the power, the beauty, and the joy, which are all substantive qualities of the divine, dwell within us as well, waiting to be awakened, waiting to rise up. This is a day to rise up to our divinity and to be able to see that more clearly in one another. We lift ourselves, we lift others, and in doing so we lift our world. This is also Passover for our Jewish friends now. It just began Friday night. Wasn't that a nice coming together with Good Friday and Passover beginning that evening? And it's about freedom. It's about being released from bondage. There are similarities here, right? The stone being rolled away. People being freed. It's time for us to live with a greater sense of freedom. And the freedom comes from beholding that divine presence within us, whether we call it the Christ or whether we call it the Atman or the Buddha or Yahweh. It's the divine presence within us all. And we behold it in each other. This was created with you in mind. This is what we are co-creating together. We're all giving our highest and our best to co-create a community of respect and expansion, and to create a world that works for all. Say it with me, a world that works for all. So we must keep our vision high, rise up to our oneness. Will you say with me, I'm reborn today. I arise to the empowering presence of Spirit. I connect on the highest possible level with all. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson. No,